we are fast approaching the release of Ahsoka. This series will see us reunite with the beloved Padawan that we first met in Clone Wars, who is now a powerful Jedi outcast, investigating an emerging threat to the galaxy after the fall of the Empire. From what we've seen in the trailers, it also appears that the series will serve as a somewhat sequel to Star Wars Rebels, with a number of characters from that series making their live-action debut as story threads from that show are further explored. The show looks incredible and it's shaping up to be exactly what the fans want. But I said the same thing about Kenobi before that came out, and we all know how that went, so I'm cautiously optimistic.
What are we looking at here?
We're looking at sea otters.
I've been burnt before.
Freedom, justice,
Sea otters.
and security.
What?
In the lead up to Ahsoka, I've been rewatching a lot of moments from Clone Wars, Rebels, and Kenobi, and while I was doing so, two moments stood out in particular. Star Wars Rebels and Obi-Wan Kenobi both feature a running plot that climaxes with a confrontation and a reunion with Anakin Skywalker, now known as Darth Vader. Rebels was the first series to do so in 2016, with the two-part Season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice. Here, Anakin Skywalker's former apprentice Ahsoka Tano discovers that Vader is in fact her old master, and she is forced to fight her former teacher.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
6 years later, in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Obi-Wan discovers that Anakin Skywalker is still alive and is now the Sith Lord Darth Vader. The two clash throughout the series, but it all leads to a final confrontation that sees Obi-Wan fight Vader and discover what is left of Anakin. Structurally, these two scenes are identical. We have a confrontation with Darth Vader, a reunion with Anakin Skywalker, and the realization that Anakin is dead. The only real difference is that Kenobi went into the fight knowing who Vader really was, whereas Ahsoka discovered the truth during the fight. Additionally, Kenobi defeats Vader, and Ahsoka fails to do so. But something that really stuck out to me when I was watching this scene play out in Kenobi is that the scene felt redundant, not only because we've seen this dynamic between Obi-Wan and Anakin before in a much better scene, might I add.
You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you.
But because I had also seen this scene years before in Star Wars Rebels, albeit with Ahsoka instead of Obi-Wan. But come on, let's be honest. This is the same scene, but it didn't just stick out in Obi-Wan because they ripped off Rebels. It's because Rebels did it better.
Then you will die.
Star Wars Rebels has an interesting reputation within the Star Wars fandom. Originally announced as the animated series that would succeed Star Wars The Clone Wars, it instantly had a lot to live up to. Clone Wars is a beloved series, so naturally people were a bit resentful towards the series that would follow it. But Rebels came out and was generally well received, and by all accounts was a great kids show set in the galaxy far, far away. But the show really started to pick up popularity when it started bringing in legacy characters. During the show's run, we saw characters like Princess Leia, Yoda, Darth Maul, Captain Rex, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course, Ahsoka Tano and Darth Vader. Oh, and obviously Jabba the Hutt made an appearance as well. By the time Rebels finished its 4-season run, the show had cemented itself as an essential watch within the Star Wars mythos, and its original characters have since become legacy characters themselves. I didn't watch Rebels when it originally aired. I actually finished the series years later. I'll admit, it took me at least 3 attempts to actually watch the show from front to back. The first season takes a while to get to the good stuff. Is it as good as Clone Wars? Well, No, but it's a great series within its own right. The animation is great, and I love how the art style translates Ralph McQuarrie's original Star Wars concept art into 3D animation, skinny lightsabers and all. The music is stellar, the character work is strong, and it delivers some gut-wrenching moments. If you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend it. Rebels is still often overlooked as a series, meaning people have missed some pivotal moments in the Star Wars canon, whether that's Obi-Wan and Maul's final duel, Bo-Katan's first time wielding the Darksaber, and of course, Ahsoka's reunion with Anakin Skywalker. In fact, I think that the reason most people think Obi-Wan's reunion with Anakin in Kenobi is better than it actually is because they haven't seen the scene from Rebels, which is even funnier considering that a significant portion of the world building in Kenobi was already done through Rebels. Ahsoka first encounters Vader early in Season 2 of Rebels, and while she suspects he could potentially be Anakin Skywalker, she reaches the conclusion that it couldn't possibly be true. Later on, during the Season 2 finale, Ahsoka travels to the planet Malachor with Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger. While there, the trio discover a Sith temple and holocron. After battling Sith Inquisitors and Darth Maul, Ezra finds himself alone at the top of the temple with the Sith holocron. Suddenly, Vader arrives surfing on top of his TIE fighter.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
He quickly disarms Ezra, but before he can deliver a killing blow, Ahsoka interrupts him. Vader wishes to work with Ahsoka to find the other Jedi, an offer she obviously refuses. But things get really heated when Anakin Skywalker is brought into the conversation.
I was beginning to believe I knew who you were behind that mask, but it's impossible. My master could never be as vile as you.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Of course, Ahsoka now believes that this Sith Lord murdered her mentor and best friend, leading her to have a more than reasonable reaction.
Then I will avenge his death.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
God damn, that is a good line. We then get an excellent duel between the two that only animated Star Wars can deliver. The contrast between Ahsoka's agile and acrobatic dueling style compared to Vader's strong and brutish stance makes for some nice variety in the movement. Vader manages to get the upper hand and put Ahsoka out of the fight momentarily. Vader then attempts to take the holocron from Ezra and Kanan as the temple begins to close around them, distracting him long enough to allow Ahsoka to come up from behind and attack Vader, taking a chunk out of his mask. Ahsoka goes to make her escape, but is called by a familiar voice.
Ahsoka.
Anakin Skywalker looks at Ahsoka through the cracked mask.
Anakin.
Ahsoka is shocked to find her master still alive and calls to him as if he is the same man.
I won't leave you. Not this time.
Anakin Skywalker has returned. He hesitates, reflecting silently, but Vader reemerges.
Then you will die.
The temple closes as Ahsoka is forced to face her old master. Now, our view of the fight for that episode ends there, but we see the rest of the fight play out in the Season 4 episode, A World Between Worlds. We discover that Ahsoka continues to fight Vader and is about to be struck down before she is saved when Ezra pulls her into the World Between Worlds. But this doesn't apply to our conversation here. All I'm concerned about now is what happens before Ahsoka is trapped inside the temple with Vader. Now, I'll get into what makes this scene so great, but first, let's go through the Vader reunion in Obi-Wan so we can compare and contrast. Now, I'm confident that I don't have to set the scene for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series because I'm sure we all remember how that went. How could we forget? Obi-Wan encounters Vader throughout the series, but I'm only concerned with their final confrontation. Obi-Wan and Vader meet on a rocky moon. The two don't exchange a lot of words.
Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan?
I will do what I must.
They immediately clash. Vader initially wins, burying Obi-Wan beneath some rubble. But Obi-Wan gets a second wind and with a sequence of devastating blows, cripples the Sith Lord. Vader's mask is cracked, revealing Anakin Skywalker.
Anakin. Anakin's gone. I am what remains.
There's an emotional back and forth.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Anakin.
You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
Any trace of Anakin disappears back into Vader, causing Obi-Wan to once again accept that his Padawan is gone.
Then my friend is truly dead. Goodbye, Darth.
And then instead of killing Darth Vader, Obi-Wan walks away and lets him live! We'll circle back to this in a bit, leaving Darth Vader to cry and moan. Make no mistake, the confrontation in Kenobi is still a pretty good scene. It gave fans a reunion between Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, and it's undeniably cool to see another confrontation between Vader and Obi-Wan, but it feels reductive and unnecessary. To me, it resembles a cheap version of the climax to the Duel of Mustafar, because this scene basically reiterates the emotional beats of that scene. Obi-Wan understands he has to destroy Anakin. They fight. Obi-Wan admits to Anakin that he failed him and that he is sorry. Anakin constantly says how much he hates Obi-Wan.
Oh, I hate you.
And so on. Although Obi-Wan doesn't have the high ground this time, so I don't fully understand how he won.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
We've seen all of this play out before in a better scene. That's the major flaw, not just with this scene, but with the Kenobi series as a whole. There's no good narrative reason for the show to exist outside of fan service. I don't need Obi-Wan going on secret adventures between episodes 3 and 4, because all he should be doing is just being a dirty hobo on Tatooine looking over Luke all of this time. Oh, and don't even get me started about this scene.
Hello there.
He said it! He said it!
Anyway, we're getting sidetracked.
Took you long enough.
My point is that the major reason as to why Ahsoka's reunion works so much better than Obi-Wan's is because Ahsoka's reunion has a narrative purpose, while Obi-Wan's reunion is rehashing something we have already been through multiple times. Ahsoka's reunion provides her and the audience with closure. Before Rebels, the last time Anakin and the audience had seen Ahsoka at this point was when she left the Jedi Order at the end of Clone Wars when it was originally cancelled. Ahsoka and Anakin finally reuniting and realizing that their story is over is the perfect closure for not only the fans who had been following this story since Clone Wars, but it also gives Ahsoka the closure her character deserves. Ahsoka's reunion also has much more dramatic power. Firstly, the dramatic irony of Ahsoka not knowing Vader is Anakin and believing that this man killed her master gives the scene a nice edge, and we see a darker side of Ahsoka we aren't used to. We also don't know if Ahsoka is going to walk away from this fight, because at the time we didn't know if she had a story after Rebels. This scene is incredibly tense because there is a serious possibility that Anakin might be the one to kill Ahsoka.
Do it.
Then you will die.
In comparison, the Kenobi confrontation lacks dramatic tension. Both the characters know everything about each other, and the audience knows that both of them are going to walk away from this fight. The fight is pointless because we know that it has no wider consequences. And coming back to what I was saying before, Obi-Wan letting Anakin live has to be the single most stupid decision ever made in the Star Wars universe. Obi-Wan went there to kill Anakin. He thought he had already done it, so surely he would not have any qualms about doing it again. He even admits that he understands that his friend is dead.
Then my friend is truly dead.
So why doesn't he kill this incredibly dangerous Sith Lord?
Kill him!
And before you say that he did the same thing in episode 3, he fully believed he had killed Anakin in that movie before leaving him. I mean, you can't tell me that you would actually expect someone to survive this. The exchange between Ahsoka and Anakin in Rebels is also so much more effective. Vader catches Ahsoka's attention by calling to her as Anakin.
Anakin.
Ahsoka has such a great reaction to this revelation. She says a single word and the rest of her pain is conveyed visually. Then she has her moment of denial.
I won't leave you!
There's a deafening silence. Anakin's inner conflict briefly rises to the surface, materializing as a subtle expression. He feels confused, angry, conflicted, and guilty all at once. This amalgamation of emotions is conveyed brilliantly through the expression of a single eye. He stands there, reflecting as Ahsoka anxiously awaits an answer. But in the blink of an eye, Vader's concentrated anger returns and kills whatever feelings he once had for Ahsoka.
Then you will die.
He attacks Ahsoka, and she is forced to accept that her master is dead as she defends herself. Vader's brief moment of hesitation is what really sells this entire scene. The return of his Padawan is a massive moment, but the gravity of this situation only manages to make Vader hesitate for a brief moment. It reinforces how much of a monster Vader is by showing how easily he is able to kill his emotions, even when he is forced to kill one of his oldest friends. The choice to convey the majority of this moment visually, instead of using clunky dialogue, leaves a much bigger impact. Also, Rebels is a good looking show, and this scene is no exception. The setting is unique, the composition is colorful and alive, and the emotion conveyed through the expressions of each character is gorgeous. I especially love the shot of Ahsoka and Vader as they stand silently with Vader's cape blowing in the wind. In comparison, the scene in Obi-Wan is underexposed with dull colors and has goddamn shaky cam, of all things. I'll admit, the red and blue lighting is nice, and the shift on Vader's face from blue to represent Anakin to red to represent Vader is heavy-handed, but still effective. But it's the only visually interesting thing about the scene.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Kenobi's confrontation also lacks any interesting visual emotion from Vader. Ewan McGregor is great as expected, but Hayden Christensen holds the same expression for the entire frickin' scene. And again, it doesn't help that the dialogue is basically a retread of what we already went through in episode 3. Obi-Wan Kenobi's bland, generic visuals and recycled dialogue simply cannot stand up against Star Wars Rebels' outstanding visuals, dramatic tension, and narrative purpose. But then again, I guess that's the power of animation. Put simply, Ahsoka's reunion with Vader in Star Wars Rebels is a far better constructed scene with an actual narrative purpose that delivers on every front. Obi-Wan Kenobi's reunion with Darth Vader in Kenobi is a fun scene to watch and delivers an overdose of fan service, but ultimately is a poorly constructed rehash of a confrontation we have already seen with no narrative reason to exist. Rebels delivered an emotional epic to conclude the story of Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker that gave Ahsoka the closure she deserved and gave Clone Wars fans the ending they deserved. Ahsoka's story is showing no signs of stopping. She's finally getting her own live-action series, and fans are rightfully pumped. Only time will tell if it actually delivers what it's promising, or if we end up with another Kenobi. But the show will no doubt be celebrated for finally bringing the wonderful world of Star Wars Rebels to life. It's nice to see the show getting the love it deserves, and I hope Ahsoka convinces a lot more people to finally give Rebels a proper chance. Take it from someone who didn't like the show at first.
I can't.
If you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, give it a try. I guarantee you'll get a lot more out of Ahsoka if you do. Now, I want to hear what you guys think. Am I crazy for thinking that Rebels did the Vader reunion better than Kenobi? Are you guys excited for Ahsoka? Are you a Rebels lover? A Rebels hater? Or do you think the show is just fine? Give me all of your Star Wars thoughts. As always guys, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks everybody.